Um, I really thought we'd get a little bit further than we did last week, but we'll just start right here. Remember, I do have a lot of these ideas that came from that article from Toddley. So some of the information that you see is kind of what they gave to me. So I want to give them credit for a lot of this, even though I'm saying a lot more than what they said in their little, I guess, article that they wrote. But one of the things about your finances is you need to be mindful of debt. And one of the things that we see is that, well, I don't know hardly anybody that doesn't have any debt. If you own a house, you got a debt. If you own a car, you probably have debt. And even the research that's presented here in 2017, just the household was 13.15 trillion at the end of 2017, and it's probably doubled.
It's over 20 now.
It's probably close to doubled now, unfortunately, because people have taken on a lot of debt, and debt's not a sin, but you've got to be careful with those things, and we'll look at some money management. I think we'll get to that tonight. So there's a really good chance that you have debt. If you don't have debt, you will have debt. So I know
23.3 trillion.
23.3 trillion. Yep. So
I think they're trying to pass another $6 trillion spending bill.
well, now the government has done their own, and they've taught people that debt's okay for some reason, and governments aren't supposed to go in debt. We're gonna look at some of those things why, but anyway, but debt's just common. I mean, just like this is saying, it's common in the United States. It seems like that is the way things are supposed to work. It's also the leading cause of financial stress in any relationship, especially in marriages. But you don't have to be married to feel the pressure from your indebtedness. I know a family, they went to school, I don't know, 20 plus years ago or so. They're still paying on their school debt. So, there's that obstacle that's, comes to you as soon as you get out of school. You're told to go to school so that you can do good in life, and then all of a sudden they stick you with this debt that you're going to have, for until the middle of your life, it seems like.
Well, yeah, and another thing is because that culture has been cultivated over the last, so many years, that the system is rigged against you too. Like the schools charge way more than what they really should for the tuition and stuff. And,
Yep.
they're just taking advantage of people.
Because it's easy for you to get the debt. And that's
Well, the thing is that the same people that are loaning you the money are the ones who are getting it. Like it's one of those things where, Peter's robbing Peter to pay Paul type thing.
Yep. So you just have to be mindful of it and understand, what you're getting into and what you're actually able to afford when it comes to that debt. We're going to look at some of the things that the Bible says about it. There's 3 principles that you really need to understand. That God does not forbid debt. Okay, sometimes it is necessary, but He does highly caution against being in debt. And then understand that generally taking on debt is actually a bad thing. Okay, like I've told you a couple of times already, a car that you're paying for doesn't make any money for you. You're upside down until that thing's paid off for another 5 years, it seems like. So even though God doesn't forbid debt, you still want to be cautious when you consider taking on debt. It's also a good idea to seek advice or a financial advisor or godly counsel to speak to your actual financial situation. That's, of course, with Kaylin, she's the first one who's gotten out of our house. So I think Joy and I understand indebtedness, so we highly advise it. Well, we highly encourage her to apply for as many grants and scholarships as possible to limit her debt. In fact, even her first year of college, we're like, we don't want you taking on staying another $3,500 to stay at the school right now. You know, we'll wait. And so we have changed our mind on that for other reasons. But you know, you got to think about, well, is it worth it? Is it, you know, is that the smart thing to do? Sometimes you know, getting the debt is the smart thing to do. Too much is not the smart thing to do. It still needs to be something that you will be able to handle. You know, if you get to the end of your school year and you owe like $80,000 and you're going to get a job that pays $15,000 at the end of the year, you're never going to be able to pay off that debt. It's going to take you forever. Okay, you're just not going to make enough money to be able to live and pay for a debt. So that's one of the things to be mindful. You know, if you're going to go to the most expensive school in the United States to become a school teacher, that's probably not the best idea. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there.
Underwater basket weaving?
Yeah, underwater basket. Oh, well, my favorite is I'm going to be a coach. I'm like, what? So what do you learn? Oh, I learned how to be PE. And yeah, can you get that? Anybody, just about anybody can get that degree. It's almost like a business degree. A ton of people get that business degree, and then they get out, and they, you know, unless you're going to start your own business, but you're going to make $20,000, $25,000 a year.
The only way college, like traditional university college, is worth it is if you go into a STEM field. You know, if you're in a science field or a you know, technology or something like that. If you're doing like, you know, liberal arts degrees, trust me, I have a liberal arts degree, and it ain't help me get anything in life except a heartache and pain.
Yeah, well, I know somebody, they got a master's in business, and they apply for jobs, and they're like, well, you're overqualified. We can't hire you because you should be running your own business. And he's like, you know, I got myself in financial trouble. I can't get you. You have to have money to start a business. He can't get money, and he can't get a job. So he's like doing all these odd and ends things, and he's really just, you know, he's 45 years old and really hasn't even got his life going yet. So that's the problem that he ran into. He got the debt, bought the lie, now and he's struggling to overcome that. So anyway, just seek godly counsel and just really be willing to have an honest conversation about what you're getting yourself into, and hear the advice. You know, hear the advice. You know, it might not be something that you can do, but you at least need to know what you're getting into. If you are in debt, not including your mortgage, prayerfully consider the steps you can take to get out of debt as soon as possible. That is one of the things that you need to plan on. As soon as if you get a debt, you try to pay it off as fast as possible. It may not make much sense to you, but I want you to think about this just for a second. You buy a car, okay? You're going to buy like a $50,000 car, and you're going to finance it for 6 years. You're going to be paying about $500 a year in interest, okay? That's actually one payment probably for your car, all right? So by the time you've done that for 6 years, they've gotten $3,000 or so out of you, which I know that's not super high, but that's if you get a low interest. A lot of times, if you're a new person, you don't have any credit yet, they're going to stick you with a super high interest rate. I had a buddy. They charged him 23% interest on a car loan. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
What was the biblical standard for interest on a loan? Because like there was a certain point you go past that it was called usury if you charge more interest than you're supposed to.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just wondering what because I know it's in there somewhere that God has a standard on, you know, what appropriate interest is on a loan. At least between God's people.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't do it to try to take advantage of people.
I guarantee you credit card companies
Oh yeah, they're definitely there. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 12. This verse says, "The Lord will open to you his good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hands. And you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow." Now, this is a verse against what our country has done. I mean, we owe over, I think it's over $30 trillion that we've indebted And what our nation has done when it did that is it's actually indebted its people, okay? They put your credit on the line and you've got to pay that bill, okay? If you can't pay the bill one day, you're gonna be the slave to somebody when they decide to.
Well, we're still in the future away from our kids or our grandkids, you know, the future generations are gonna pay that debt back. It'll never happen.
Right, you know, we are, you know, and I get to be a part of this too right now. You know, what we're seeing right now is inflation like crazy. That is the price you pay for indebtedness, okay? That means that your dollar is worth a lot less, and it's just everything's gonna cost more to you, or you're gonna have to really cut back on the things that you enjoy the most. That's what debt of your nation does to you. That's what debt in your life does to you. So you have to be, you have to be careful. If you don't have to borrow, don't, okay? There's no reason why you need to take a loan out to get a TV, to get a game console, to get recreational items, anything like that. Things that you have to have, like a vehicle, you have to have a vehicle to get to work, you may have to take out a loan to do that. For a place to live, you might have to take out a loan to buy a house. Those things are understandable. Those are tools necessary for you to survive. But if it's not a tool, if it doesn't do anything for you, you don't get yourself into debt for those things. You wait, okay? You wait. You don't go buy it on a credit card because that's a debt. Unless you actually have the money and you're like, well, I'm just using the credit card as a tool to get what I want right now, but I've got the money in the bank and I'm paying it off at the end of the month. If that's your logic, using it like that is okay, but now you might have to get your car fixed, okay? You might have to get your car fixed. What do? Well, it's gonna cost me $3,000 to fix my car. I need this car. I can't get a loan for it. I've got a credit card, so I charge it to my credit card. Then I could say, well, yeah, you've got to do that because you have to, okay? The smart thing to do is to plan for that day and have that money, insure yourself, okay? Insure yourself. If you never get to that point where it's like, I don't have to have insurance on that, I can insure myself, and that way when that bad day comes, you don't have to put it on a credit card, you just write a check. And that would be a lot cheaper on you. You make a $3,000 payment to fix your car, by the time you finally can pay that thing off, you've paid $6,000 for it, for that repair. You could have bought another car for that much. So, but if you've got the money in the bank, you write the check, it's paid for. Yeah, are you happy about that? No, but at least you had the money to do it with, and you're still able to put cheese on your hamburger when you go to Burger King, right? Don't go to Burger King. I don't like Burger King anymore. Go to Chick-fil-A. It's not real burgers anyway.
So yeah, Whoppers don't come with cheese, do they?
I don't know. Ecclesiastes 5:4. They'll gladly charge you $1 for a 25-cent piece of cheese. Ecclesiastes 5:4. When you vow a vow to God, do not delay paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. When you make a promise, God sees the promise. You think, oh, I didn't vow a vow to God, I vowed it to this guy over here. Jesus said, if you do this unto the least of these, it says you've done it to me, okay? You make a promise, you keep your promise. You say you're gonna pay, you pay. You make it happen. You don't delay. You vow a vow. You pay your vow. Okay, that's what Ecclesiastes 5:4 says. That way, nobody can ever hold that over your head. They're not going to get bitter against you because that's what will happen. Okay, let's say you one day you need $200. You beg somebody, man, I need $200 to take care of this. I'll pay you back. Well, you never pay that back. You've lost credit with that person. They're like, they might be like, okay, I don't mind helping you out. I'll give you $200. That's not that big a deal. I've got $200, but you never pay that back. And then what do you do next time you need some help? Well, you've lost credit with those people. They're like, well, I can't trust you anymore. You've lost trust. And trust is really, really hard to get, really, really easy to lose. So that's why you don't want to burn those bridges. That's what happens when when you don't keep your vows and your promises. Proverbs 6, 1 through 5. And if y'all have any questions, just stop me, okay? Yes, sir.
I'm just thinking, could you go back to this previous slide real quick?
Now, this isn't King James Version on these, so.
No, it's okay, I was writing down the verses, so I don't know where my sheet is. So. Thank you. Forgive me.
I guess I should print those back up.
Okay.
Proverbs 6, 1 through 5 says, My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, that means that you have, your neighbor got in trouble and you're helping him out. You have given your pledge for a stranger. If you are snared in the words of your mouth, caught in the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, and save yourself. For you have come into the hand of your neighbor. Go hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler. What do you think that verse means? I know that's kind of a complicated one. I'd like to know what your input is on that. What do you think? He kind of throws in a little parable with that. He's basically saying, anybody got any ideas?
Be a man of your word is what it's telling you. Like you tell them you're gonna do something, or you make a promise, or to honor that.
Yeah.
Essentially is what it's saying.
What do you got?
I was just thinking, it almost sounds like if you pledge, like, hey, I'm gonna help you out, but then you aren't able to do it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is talking about that. Yes, you gave your word. You should keep your word, but you can't keep your word. Okay, there's nothing you can do. What do? Solomon is saying you beg the person, and try to figure out another way to.
What a lot of people do is in that scenario is they avoid the person that they owe, and what that does is it burns that relationship down. You don't have the ability to get back to that person anymore once you've done it, or at least most people aren't going to receive you back. There are some people we use like that in our family, close family.
Right.
A lot of people do that to their parents and grandparents.
Yeah, really, what I think what it's trying to help you understand is if you commit yourself to something and you can't keep the commitment for whatever reason, here it could be anything really. I mean, we're trying to gauge it towards money management type things, but it could be anything. You make a promise, you fail to keep your promise. What you should do is you should contact that person and say, I'm an idiot, I forgot something.
Or something happened, my paycheck was short, I wasn't able to pay you right this week. But
Right.
let them know. Don't avoid it. Basically.
Right. You help them understand that, you're not trying to be bad on purpose. It was an accident. That's really what it's trying to do. And if you do have something like that, and sometimes you can even work with creditors like that too. If you contact them, hey, I can't this month, can we work this out? And even with those guys, sometimes, unless you've gone several months without contacting them and you got in trouble, then if you get to the end of the month though and you're struggling, like, hey, I've got to work something out. I've had a really bad month. This is going on. A lot of times, those guys will actually work with you a little bit.
Yeah.
So, that's what he's saying. But you don't wait. That's what Solomon is saying here.
Yeah,
Don't wait to try to deal with
What I
it.
was gonna say is that last part, keep your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. It's kind of like the idea of don't go to bed angry with somebody, with your wife or something like that. It's like don't let the sun go down on that situation without handling it.
Right,
Basically, is what
right.
I'm saying. It's kind of what that's what it reminded me of anyway. Don't go to bed mad.
Yep. It's like that. It's telling you, make sure you try to take care of your promises and keep them to the best of your ability. Sometimes you won't. Things will happen. You won't be able to do it. Proverbs 22:7. Here we are. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave to the lender. What do you think that means? It means exactly what it says, is what it means.
Yeah.
So whoever it is that you owe money to actually owns your life. Okay.
Your servitude.
Yeah. People sometimes don't know this, but if you fail to pay your taxes, they can put a lien against your property, and you can't borrow anything. You can't. I mean, you won't be able to get a bank account unless you already have one. They can even do that. They can like they can take your resources if they file that lien against you, and they can, you know, if it gets bad enough. But you won't be able to borrow any money. You can't buy a car, can't buy a home. I mean, that makes it, you won't even be able to leave. I mean, you might want to leave you might want to leave, and you can't leave, you know? You can't get a credit card. I mean, they put that lien against your account, and you can't do anything. The rich rules over the poor. And, you know, and that's kind of the way that our government has become. They've become the rich guy, and they're led by rich people, the giants of our land, just like in the days of Noah. They have kind of taken over. And the borrower is the slave of the lender. And they actually, indebtedness causes slavery. And you know, that's just the way it is. You can only do what they tell you that you can do. And that is the way it actually works in the real world. If you don't know that yet, you know, there is a day coming that you may find out. You know, you may find out. Proverbs 22:26. Be not one of those who gives pledges, who put up security for debts.
What is that phrase, when you put up security for debt? Like, that put up security was in that last one we read too, on the previous slide.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, co-signing.
Okay, so you're like vouching for something?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, someone comes in, they want you to co-sign for
Okay,
them.
okay. So you're insuring a debt. is
Right.
basically
Yeah,
what
you're
saying.
insuring the debt. You will pay if they cannot.
Gotcha.
And Solomon says, don't do that for people that you really don't know, okay? You know, my dad actually did that for me when I bought my first car, which was crazy. I had money in the bank, but they didn't have good faith in me yet. So I'm like, I can't even get credit because I don't have credit. So it was a catch-22. But anyway, so they co-signed for me so I could get that car and I could build my credit, and that was a really good start to my life. But I was not a stranger. I was not a stranger. I was probably, anyway.
We're more secure.
So I had a steady job. Like make the payment wasn't the problem. It was just getting the loan that was the
Still
problem.
at home?
No, I was actually in the military.
Were you in the military? Still at home, dang, never sleep.
Yeah, yeah. Psalms 37:21. The wicked borrows but does not pay back. What does he call those people who do not pay back? Wicked. He calls them wicked.
What makes you a liar and a thief?
You're a liar. Absolutely. But the righteous is generous and gives. And y'all have heard me say that a lot of times, that God's people they're givers. You know, they don't have problems giving. They don't like being taken advantage of though. And you know, it's not commanded to be willing to be taken advantage of. So if you know somebody's a wicked person, God doesn't say you need to give to them, you know, despite you knowing what they are. I mean, I knew this guy. I saw him when I was at Cathedral, and he came in with this story of how his grandmother died or his mom died up in Illinois. And 3 years later, he comes over here to Bethany with the same story. And I recognized him, and I recognized the story. And I said, I know you. And he's like, no, you don't. I've never seen you before. And I'm like, well, you have. I'm like, when did your mom die? And he's like, well, she died this past weekend. Well, what's her name? Where's she from? And he told me that information. I looked him up, and he was about 3 years late for the funeral. I knew he was a liar. But he went, you know, did we give him any money? I'm like, no. If you're gonna come in with lies,
I don't think God expects you to help somebody like that.
Right,
If
right.
there's being the deceiver from get-go, you know?
Luke 6:35, but love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. That is the way that you should be as a giver. And if somebody says that they're going to keep their promises, you know, you hope that they will. And you're going to remember, you know, you'll remember if they don't. And, you know, that's a failure on their part.
What do you think God expects of you from
that's gonna be up to you. You know, how much do you love that person?
Yeah. Well, I'm asking what God expects me to do, not how I feel about it.
You know, I think it's a case by case basis on that. I mean,
I got some family that I've finally reached the point where, like, I've given, and I finally got to the point where I just won't give anymore because they've already seen me time.
well, there is a difference between giving and enabling. Okay, you don't need to be enabling somebody to sin. I mean, it's like you paying for them to be able to sin. That's a sin.
It's like giving my brother money. Not Brian, but it's a little one.
Yeah.
If I give him money, I know it's going to drugs or something.
You know,
something worse, you know.
absolutely. You know, God doesn't want you to enable somebody to sin. And your reward will be great, and you will be the sons of the Most High, for He is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Now, if you don't know, I would say if you don't know exactly what they're going to do with it, then you know that's kind of you know you're in ignorance, or they lie to you and you believe the lie, and you find out later. You know, it's, you know, don't give grudgingly. Okay, if you can't live without it, you don't give it. Does that make sense? So don't feel like you're obligated if you don't have it to give.
If it's going to
Okay.
put you or your family in mind, you help somebody else out. You gotta understand that.
Yeah, well, you know, if you, I mean, some people, they can give off of faith, but if you're like, man, I can't do this without being grudgingly, then you don't need to do it. Okay, you don't need to do it, because you know that will cause you to be able to sin later. Does it? You know, not having the faith, is that a sin? I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a sin. It's just you're not there yet. For whatever reason, or you don't feel good about the situation. You know, you don't feel good about it. You're supposed to be trying to be led by the Holy Spirit. You don't feel good about it. Then you know you do your best to follow the leading of the Spirit at the time and to be wise and use discretion.
I mean, God expects us to be loving, but I don't think He calls us to be gullible. You know, like He wants us to care about people and do what we can, but I don't think He calls us to just blindly accept everything everybody tells you and take everything as true. You know, He didn't expect us to be oblivious to what's going on.
Well, we've known some people that it seemed like every month they were asking people for money because they were not managing their money right. But you know where they would go the whole month? Every meal they were eating out. Every morning they were going to Shadrack's, and they don't have money at the end of the month to buy basic necessities, and then they ask you for money, and you know all that stuff is going on. Well, you're enabling them. It's time for them to suffer a little bit. Maybe they need to go a few meals without being able to go eat out somewhere or go to Shadrack's that morning. Like, anyway, you know, if you know those things are going on and you're enabling them, you're not really helping them. You know, you're just helping them to continue to be bad money managers. And God actually wants you to be good money managers, because those people, they're not giving, they're not helping anybody. They're just helping themselves. So now, anyway, Luke 14:28. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? And you know, and that is one of the things which is really, really difficult for some reason in, I don't know, Generation Z and Millennium and X. Like we struggle to really understand what the cost of living really is. You know, you think that people are supposed to help you out. You know, once you turn to the age where you can die for your country, your parents really aren't obligated to pay for all of your wants. You know, it's out of their giving heart that they get you to them. They make sure that your needs are provided for. They could just say, you need to leave. You're 18. It's time for you to be your own person and not absorb my income anymore. They could do that. Now, is that good parenting? You know, back in the Bible times when you were 14 years old, you were the man of your own house. Okay? It was time for you to grow up and earn your own living. You were supposed to take care of your parents by that time.
And the baby birds get their feathers, mom pushes them out of the nest.
I know, and you know it's our fault too. You know, we don't train them to be ready for that. They use the term adulting. Y'all want to know what adulting means? Y'all want to know what adulting means? It means you're failing in life. That's what adulting really means. If you are, because there's a bunch of adults that they have not grown up yet. Okay, they're still adulting. Now, if you are a mature person, you're able to take care of the necessities for you and your family, and you can even help a couple other people along the way. Okay, that's a mature person. That's an adult.
Yeah, the idea of adulting is that you're pretending to be an adult.
Yeah, you're pretending, and you're.
If you're using the word adulting in your life, you're not an adult. I mean, let's be honest. Take it
I
seriously.
never heard any adults say that.
Yeah.
I know we're an adult today, you know, like
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get the option to pay your bills, to do the things that you need to do to take care of your family. The God's word actually has a word for that. You're worse than an infidel. That's what the scripture says on that. So adulting is not in the Bible. That's a made up term for people that they want you to treat them as an adult, but they don't want to act like one. There's really no such thing. It's a made up modern term that means that you're failing in life is really what it means. And I'm sorry, but that is what it means. And try to prove. I'd really like you, if somebody can prove otherwise, then I will accept that conversation.
Yeah, the only time I ever said that is jokingly.
Yeah.
When I'm at work for the 6th day in a row that week, I'm like, I don't want to adult today.
Yeah, you don't want to adult today. I get
If
it.
you do it, I mean.
Yeah, but I do it. You know. It's not
But-
like I have time for
You're like,
adulting.
I'm
We're
not.
always adults.
I'm not adulting anymore.
Well, it's kind of like a term that we always use of raising children. And you know what? We've done a good job of raising children that are now adulting. We've raised children, and they're still children trying to adult.
Yeah, we should raise adults.
We should have raised adults.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I offend you guys. Not really, but it kind of goes along with this. If you desire to build a tower, you desire to have children, and you're not willing to like make them do right, and then for the kids too. I mean, if you really want to succeed, then it's okay to find some success people that look like they have their life together and ask them, what do I need to do to get on the right track? I feel like I'm off track a little bit. What would I need to do? Would you tell me your story? A lot of times, now, is your life going to be able to flow the same way as that? No. But you can take those same ideas and apply them to yourself,
We use it for an example.
and you can get there. You can get there. But no more adulting. No more. Romans 13, 7 through 8. Pay to all that is owed them, taxes to whom taxes are owed, revenue to whom revenue is owed, respect to whom respect is owed, honor to whom honor is owed. Owe no one anything except to love each other, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. You know, I don't like paying taxes. I do pay taxes. Do I agree with the taxes? I don't. But
I was about to say, you know how the Bible tells us to store our treasure up in heaven? I always think about that when I think about taxes because, you know, you work your whole life here on earth to try to build something to pass down to your kids, like to own your own house and own your own land. But we don't really ever own anything.
I know.
If you don't keep paying your taxes on it, they will take it from you.
yeah, they'll put a lien against you.
Which means you don't actually own it. That's not, you know, you don't really own that.
You don't own anything.
But that's why Jesus tells you to put up your treasure in heaven where thieves don't, you know, thieves can't steal it and it can't be corrupted by,
Right.
you know, rust or whatever.
You know, you actually don't earn the money that you make, do you, Caden? Because they take a piece of it. Like, oh, you did so good. Pat you on the back. Good job, Caden. Hand clap.
50%.
Now, give me part of that money that you made. Because we worked really hard for your money.
Well, you know, everybody wants to talk about how much they make an hour, like, yeah, I make this much an hour. No, let's figure out what you make after taxes. That's what you actually make an hour.
Money management. We're gonna go ahead and press on to this chapter 8 here. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a single Bible verse about money management that would deliver you from all your financial worries? Would y'all like that?
Amen.
Name it, claim it.
Name it, claim it. I wish there was something I could share, but this isn't the case. To manage your money, there's 2 steps that you need to take. You need to make a plan and work your plan. Okay? And you know, I've been trying to help somebody here lately, and I just want to help them make a plan. They can't even get to that point. You know, and they're doing that A word. So they have no plan. You can take that however you want. In your financial plan, you need to answer the following questions. How much money do you have? How much money are you making? What's your total income after taxes? Okay? You need to know, how much do I actually have?
Budgeting.
Yeah, like a budget. You know, I've offered to help some people make a budget a bunch of times. I even have this Excel file. It has everything you need to make a budget. Nobody's ever taken me up on that offer. No, they just want the free handout. They just want to be enabled to keep failing like they're failing. Rather than, let's see if I can get my life together. So you need to know what your real income is. Not how much they say that you're making. You need to know how much goes into my checking account for me to be able to pay my bills and to get my food and stuff. And then you need to know this. How much do you need to tithe? You know, and you know that is a biblical principle at the first of the month you see how much income you actually get, and at least this is the way that I do it. I don't think there's a right or really wrong answer on that. It's the heart. It's the heart. What do you need to tithe? Okay, the biblical minimum is 10%. That is what's given to us through the Scripture. Jesus would tell even the Pharisees, you tithe of everything. 10%, that's what it means, the 10%. He's like, but you leave out the greater portions of the law, love, justice, and mercy. So what do you need to give?
Is it 10% of your net bank or your gross bank?
I do whatever shows up in the bank, because that's really all I can depend on, you know, after I'm robbed. So
that's how I look at it. It's like 10% of what you actually have, because you don't really have that money to go to the government.
Right, right.
And if you want to make sure that you tithe off that, then you just tithe on your tax returns.
Yeah. Just do this. Give God your heart, and He'll work out those details. You know, you're like, okay, this is about how much it is, and you just be a willing giver, because here's the thing about the tithe. He doesn't say the tithe must go to the place that you go to church. It doesn't actually say that. Should it? Well, it depends on if you agree with the ministry that's going on.
Money too, you know, is the church being responsible?
Yeah.
With your tithe.
Yeah. If the place that you're going is not responsible, then you got a whole other issue that you got to deal with. So it doesn't mean that that's not what it means. You should give it to God. Okay? And you should find some things that are getting the message of the gospel out and trying to help other people better themselves per the way of the gospel and Jesus Christ. That's really what you need to look at whenever you go to tithe.
Well, you know, what's kind of funny about the tithing thing is really what it comes down to is your heart. God wants to see your heart towards
It's
Him,
the heart.
towards ministry. It's just like with when Jesus started preaching, you know, the Old Testament concepts to the Jews, and He said, "You heard this, but I'm telling you this." It's really getting to the heart of it. And it's just the
Right.
same thing with tithing.
Right.
Tithing is a biblical concept that's put in there, but really what God wants to see is your heart towards Him. He wants your heart to be dedicated to His service and to His ministry and to spreading the gospel. You can tithe your time and your car or whatever, to be used to do whatever.
you do need to make, I don't wanna foot stomp this too awful much, but it needs to be, if you're gonna give, you give from the heart, okay? If it's not coming from the heart, keep it, okay? God doesn't need your money, He wants your heart. It's just, that's a really good way to show your heart is being willing to part with, you know, some of what God has given to you.
Absolutely.
And you'll be surprised how much He blesses you when you do, and you're willing. But anyway, pressing on to the next thing. How much money do you need to save and invest? There's that part of it too. You need to set aside money that you save and invest. You put it away, you don't touch it unless you just have to, okay? You should take at least, I think you should plan for at least set up some goals, okay? Right? For whenever you're gonna save and invest, you find out, well, what do I need? First off, if I have an emergency in the house, my refrigerator goes out, my car has a problem, I've got to get new tires. What is that going to cost me? And your first goal in your saving is to insure yourself. Okay, that's the first step in saving, and then you just set other goals as you go up along the way. Does that make sense? I think there's some more areas that we're going to come back and talk about this a little bit more. But whenever you do save and invest, it is some goals where, you know, you need to set aside so much every month. You know, if you can't say, if you think, well, I just don't, you know, when I get to the end of the month, I have no money. This would be my recommendation for you.
Lower your expenses.
Well, we're going to look at that next, but what you do is you start using cash, okay? You start using cash, and then you take your change and you drop it in a coffee can. And you know what you'll find out? When you get to the end of the month and you've got no money left, and you go and you open up that coffee can and you find $20 in there. Okay? You take it to the bank and you put it in your savings account. Or you leave it in the coffee can. It'll get about as much interest. but you know, at least you got that. And then one day, as you know, the next time you get a pay raise, you take, let's say you get I don't know, what do pay raises look like? What do pay? 50 whole cents. Okay, so you take 10% of that 50 whole cents. Okay, just take. Yeah, you can, because you've learned to live on that other part, right? So you take 50% of your new raise, right? So 50 cents, you take 25 cents. So by the time you get to the end of what are you looking at? $40 or 40 hours a week? 50 cents times 40, I don't know how much that is. I don't know, you're gonna be around somewhere around probably, what's 40 times 25? So we're looking at about $20, $25 or so, something like that.
40 times 25 is 1,000.
Quarters.
Oh, quarters.
20.25.
So the,
$25
$10.
so $10. Okay, so I was overestimating. So $10 is what you'll have at the end of the week. That's $40 a month that you should be putting in savings, just from your raise, because you've already learned how to live off the other money, right? So you just you keep half for yourself. Well, you 10% to God, the half goes into your savings, and then the rest you waste on whatever. Hopefully it's not lottery tickets. Does that make sense? That you plan and you plan to invest, and you do put some of that money away. And you know what you'll find out? And you just try to keep your living until you just try to keep your living simple, and you try to save, because you're gonna need that money later on. Okay? How nice would it be to be able to go in, you need a new car, and you go pay cash for it. You don't have to pay any interest on it. You actually make money, and then you could take the $500 or so a month that you were gonna pay on that, and you just put it right back in the bank. It'll accumulate pretty quick. I don't know, does that make sense to you? I know these are foreign concepts.
I used to have a account with Bank of America back in the day, don't know if anybody's doing it now, but, with your debit card transactions, you have the option to set this up, and it would automatically round up your transactions to the next dollar amount, and it would take that money and put it in a separate account for you.
Right.
And then they, and then, you know, like at the end of the year or whatever, you'd have, you know, a couple $100 in there that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, well, you know, when my mom, she told me to do that with my checkbook. Back in the day.
I'll round it up, yeah.
And that was before you could actually just go online and check your bank account and see what everything looks like. So I'd have to wait for the statement to come in, or I'd have to call and listen to everything that's gone through.
I remember telling you about it on the phone.
So I went to this one bank after about 2 years in the military, and I'd done that for 2 years. I'd rounded up every expenditure on my little balance book, because I actually, you had to keep records back then a little bit better, so you'd know what you had in there. So I went to close out that bank account. I had $1,000 more than I thought I did.
Awesome.
I'm like, I've never had this, and then they gave it all to me at once. I'm like, I've never had this much money in my hand at one time.
I remember that. I remember the first time I had like $1,000 in my hand, and I was like,
I know. Well, I was like 21 years old when I did that, and I'm like, this is awesome.
yeah,
And I did not want to spend it on anything.
you're a different kind of guy than I was.
Yeah. I was different. I've always been a little bit of a saver. So what are your monthly expenses and debt repayments? So that's when a budget comes in, and you need to be aware of what your outgo is. If your outgo exceeds your income, then you got some issues that will soon come. Like I said, you become a slave.
You need to adjust your outgo as you can. I mean, obviously you can't change everything at once, but if you're paying, $800 a month in rent and you're not able to afford it, then you need to find a cheaper place to live. You have to work within the budget that you got.
Right.
Or increase your budget by finding a different job, or whatever you have to do. But find that balance.
Right.
It's not sustainable to keep going on bring in less than what's putting out.
That's right. That's right. So you really need to understand what your expenditures are, and then if there's waste, you try to avoid the waste. And that's really what you look at. That's why you need to, it's good for you to actually sit down sometimes and say, well, this is what my budget's going to look like. I think I've done that with Kaylin and maybe Isaac a little bit, mainly Kaylin, because I'm like, I want you to understand what's coming in your life. You're going to have to make these payments. You make less than $3,000 a month. You're going to struggle with just normal life. It may be impossible now. I don't know. So that's what life looks like. If you're going to have all these things going on, this is how much it's going to cost. And to understand that, can you simplify it? You might can a little bit. You get less, you go less places, you buy less gas, you don't eat out. Some minor things like that will help you. That's just managing your money. If your outgo exceeds your income, then you've got to make cuts somewhere. Because you need to make sure I can pay my bills, I can tithe, and I can save. Those are very important pieces of your life's puzzle, okay? After you know your income and your expenses, here are four more questions you should ask. What costs can you reduce? I kind of said that. Can you look at that? If we didn't have a computer and Amazon wasn't a thing, I think we would probably save more money, but I don't know. How much more money can you pay towards debt? One of the things that you need to look at, if you get a raise, okay, you get a 50-cent hour raise, and you have debts, well, you need to pay off that debt. Okay, you need to work towards that.
Paying more on your monthly payment towards a large debt will make a significant difference in it, because you're paying it off free interest.
It will. For an example, like a mortgage, you take out a mortgage about, around $200,000, right? If you make an extra monthly payment, once a year, you'll take a 30-year loan down to about a 20-year loan, just by one monthly payment a year. And you're like, really? That's how much interest you're paying. Now, if you can do that a couple times a year, you'll even get it even lower. Now, if you wait till you're 20 years to do it, you pay it for mortgage payments, you pay most of your interest up front.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because
So-
it's front loaded with the interest. That's why it makes such a big difference.
Right. That's why if you got extra money that you can pay when you first do the loan, you make money off of that. So you know, that's one of the things that whenever you go to buy a house, you buy a house that you can actually do that to, and that will be helpful. Now, if you, and my rule of thumb, and we've purchased a couple houses, is that the monthly payment for the house should not exceed 1/3 of your monthly income. If it exceeds 1/3 of your monthly income, you will run into problems. Something's gonna break, and you're gonna have to fix it, and it's gonna set you back. And when you get set back, it doesn't just set you back a month; it sets you back years. Okay, so that's the problem that you run into with you know, stuff like that. So you try not to let, when you buy the house, you're like, I make $3,000 a month. My house cannot exceed $1,000, and that's your take-home pay. Okay, that's after your taxes are done, and the rest of that money will get absorbed too and other things. But that's just kind of my rule of thumb for it. If you can make sure it's less than that, you know, you get a fixer-upper and you fix it, and you could sell it in 5 or 6 years and make all that money back and what you've put into it. You know, good on you. That's kind of an investment. That's kind of like a savings program for you. So anyway, that's just things to consider whenever you make expenses. Same thing, you know, the same thing with a car. A car isn't as extreme on that because the interest are normally a little bit lower, but still, if you can't afford a $600 a month payment on a car, you know, and by the way, when you drive that car off the lot, it immediately loses about 20% of its value, or maybe more, I don't know, but you just got to understand those things, that it's not going to make money for you until it's paid off, and you've got to make that payment. Can you afford that with what you're bringing in? Car payment shouldn't exceed, like, you know, I would say 10% of your monthly income, because you still have all these other things. So if it's going to do that, then you're going to run into problems. Okay. And for me, of course, y'all get my take on things. I don't want to make more than one car payment at once, okay? Because it just gets expensive, you know, because you're going to pay more insurance also on cars that you're paying for too. Anyway, what costs can you reduce? So you look at those. What can I reduce? How much more money can you pay towards your debts? You know, if you've got some debts, especially credit cards, you want to get those puppies paid off, okay? They're bad news. They're expensive. Credit cards are not like a car or a mortgage. Credit cards, the interest builds monthly. So you get $1,000 monthly bill on your credit card, and you're like, I pay the minimum, what, $200? You pay interest on that remaining $800, and it's usually going to be close to 20%. So what's 20% of 800? All right, Katie's pulling out the calculator.
20% of 800?
20% of 800.
160. 160.
160. So 160 goes on top of that 800. So you actually went down on your debt. You paid $200 a month, but your debt actually only went down $40. That's what that looks like. So that's credit cards. So what do you got to do? Not
What you gotta do is don't have credit cards.
don't have. You know, you almost can't live without a credit card.
Yeah.
I would say you get one, and you call them and make sure I'm limiting my credit card to like this much that can be spent on it, just in case something happens. But you don't use it unless you can pay it off. Like you insure yourself. I pay my credit card off. I at the end of every month.
The only way that, yeah, I mean, you pretty much have to have one, you have to have revolving credits, and today, you know, nowadays, you
Right.
have to. You know, it's also good to have one just in case of emergency as well, you know, if something comes up that you, like say you've got your nest egg to handle car repairs and stuff, well, if you got 4 kids and they all got their own car and one of them breaks down and, you know, your savings is wiped out doing that, then you might need your credit card to take care of the other car that breaks down, you know. When it rains, it pours. It's different.
That,
At Kate Spade.
and that's a very true thing. It seems like that's,
There was a sale at Kate Spade here in person.
yeah, that is one of the things Brother Sean brought up. It's like, it's usually not just one thing that breaks at once.
Yeah.
It's multiple things. It's like they come in threes.
It comes in threes, yeah.
I mean, you think, oh, that's superstition. They say that because it happens often, okay? It's not gonna be just this, it's gonna be this, this, and this, and maybe this, this, and this, and this. So it can get really expensive really quick, and you can get set back really fast. So you just have to be aware that life is like that, and it's, so, all right. How can you save more money? These steps will help you make a plan, and there are many personal budget templates that you can find online to guide your effort. I gave you some ideas. Are those ideas meant for you? Maybe not. They might not work for you. You should have something. You know, if you can only save $1 a month, $5 a month, it's something. And you start somewhere, and you try to add that. You try to add to that as soon as you can. You know, you get to the end of the month and you have an extra $20, don't go blow it at Chick-fil-A for one sandwich. You put it in the bank because you know that next month may be a bad month and you might need that $20. These steps will help you make a plan. Second, after you make a plan, you have to work your plan. A plan does you no good if you're like, well, I've got a plan, I just ignore it. You got to work the plan. You got to try to do it. And that's called discipline, okay? Where you discipline yourself to make sure that you do it. All right, I'm going to wrap this up really quick. It says, for this step, you will have to look in the mirror and realize there's nobody else in your life who can take responsibility for your financial situation. Let me see how much I got here. Okay, there's not much. Okay, so let's see. You got to take responsibility. You got to be disciplined. You have to pay your bills. You don't have to use mobile giving or online giving to here. You can whatever. You know how to do it here. It says, and then you have to fight the temptation to accumulate more debt. Okay, because our culture teaches instant gratification. Get what you need, or get what you want when you want it, however you can.
It's my money and I want it now.
So, but thankfully, you're not alone in these decisions. You can find forgiveness for poor financial choices, and and I'll tell you, I haven't always made the best decisions. I've wasted a lot of money in my life.
Amen, brother.
So what do you do? What do you do when you tell God, I'm sorry, I should have asked you better? Let me give you one more piece of advice. If the deal sounds good, run away. Or
It's too good to be true.
if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And if they come in and they say, I only have this deal for today, walk away. It's not a deal if it's not there tomorrow. Okay? Just keep that in mind. If it's not there tomorrow, it wasn't a deal to begin with. Somebody's messing with you. I've had people do that with water softening stuff. I've had them do it with siding, with windows. One guy tried to sell us meat, and it out of the back of it, yeah, even out of the back of his truck, and they try to make it sound like the good deal. It's like, actually, and they show you all these numbers to make it look like you'll actually save money by the end of the year if you buy from me right now. but you can only get it today. I'm like, well, can we pray about it tonight? They do not want you praying about nothing. That's when you know it's not really a deal. They're a scammer. Okay? So walk away and take your checkbook with you. Okay? But if you guys, man, if somebody comes by with a deal, you're like, I need to call my preacher first.
You know, like when the vacuum salesman shows up at your house?
Exactly. Say, I gotta call somebody first, and you watch their expression while you do it, and then say, well, you know what? I need to pray about it. Can we come back tomorrow? And they do not want to do that. They're like, well, it's only for today. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll see you later, alligator, whatever. Deuteronomy 15:7, if among you one of your brothers should become poorer in any of your towns within your land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart to shut your hand against the poor brother. So, what does that mean? Man, help him get back on track if he will receive the help. One of the problems that I've found is that I can't help people if they would be helped. They don't want my help. They want me to bail them out. And I can't bail people out. My command from God is to help people, not enable them. I want to help them. I don't want to bail them out. I want to get them to a point where they can get through this. Ecclesiastes 7:12. For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. What do you think about that? Does that make sense, Caden? You're shaking your head?
Be wise with your money.
Yeah, be wise. Be wise. Just like you would be wise with your life, be wise with your money.
But remember, the fall of God was in the night. The world's
Yeah.
There's a verse in Romans that says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools.
Yeah.
Make
Well,
sure you're following God with it, not your
You
own.
know, there's some really rich guys that they've done well, and I think they've basically followed God's principles for money management, and they're not godly guys at all. I think you could look at the Amazon people, Bill Gates, even Trump. After a while, after his first 4 bankruptcies, I think they started seeing that God's got some good principles in there. Now, did they want to follow God? Maybe not. But God, some of these things are actually like laws written in the world. So, if you can understand those things and be wise, Proverbs 3:9 and 10, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. I think that verse kind of speaks for itself. You give to God, He's going to make sure He takes care of you. Okay? Does it mean He's going to make you rich? He has promised He'll supply all your needs according to His riches and glory. Proverbs 10:4, a slack hand causes poverty. What's a slack hand? What's a slack hand, Kaylin?
A hand that cannot grip money well.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, well, it's basically somebody who doesn't want to work, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. They're too lazy to get out there and change their own tire, then it's flat.
Triple A.
Was willing.
The hand was slack. Proverbs 14:8, the wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving. Luke 14:28-30, which of you desiring to build a tower doesn't first sit down and count the cost? We already looked at this verse. You got to look down and you got to see what you've got to work with, and then make a plan and do the plan. So that is where we're at. There really isn't a whole lot left, but we'll save this for next week, and that'll be a good week. And then after that, I'm hoping that we can do some chosen stuff.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments, questions about any of this stuff?
Can I have some money?
Can I have some money?
Get on the 20.
I need a loan.
Can I look at?
I'll pay you back, I promise.
I have 6 things in my cart.
Anybody got anything? I've got some things on Rock Auto too.
I've got something for you. Wait, I'm on the motorcycle.
Oh.
Never mind.
Anybody got anything?
Uh,
All right. Anybody want to lead us and close us in prayer? Isaac? Okay.
Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for all that you've given us. Just please be with this week with different things going on with camps and just help this week to go well. And in your name we're praying. Bless the food. Amen.